Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Ricky Grimo with the Whitehall Volunteer Fire Department, as well as a student at Eastern Kentucky University, majoring in Fire Protection Administration and minoring in Emergency Medical Care. Today we'll go over how to make the home fire safe. The purpose of this lesson is to ensure that homes are fire safe and to ensure that the people inside them stay safe. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to uh, conduct a fire inspection inside a home residence. In this case, we will go over 1 and 2 family dwellings, and they'll also know how to um, conduct fire drills, prepare fire drills for residents, as well as um, ensuring smoke detectors work and etc. What is a home? Home is where the heart is what most people say. But for this lesson, as I said earlier, we will solely focus on 1 and 2 family dwellings. According to NFPA 101, Section 3366, a 1 and 2 family dwelling is 1 or more rooms arranged for complete independent housekeeping purposes with space for eating, living, and sleeping, or with facilities for cooking and provisions for sanitation. So basically, it's your standard 1 and 2 story houses is what we'll be focused on today. Some facts about the fire in the home. Marty Ahern's did a study for the NFPA during the years 2007 and 2011, and through his research, it was reported that 366,600 home fires occurred annually, as well as there was 2,570 civilian fire deaths, with 13,210 civilian fire injuries. With these numbers, it is important to remember that this was per year. For the entire time period this study was conducted, there was 1,833,000 home fires, as well as that produced $36 billion worth of damages. We had a total of 12,850 civilian fire deaths or fatalities and 66,050 civilian fire injuries. So let's find out what caused these numbers. Cooking. Cooking is the number one cause of home fires. It accounted for 43% of all fires. It is also the number one cause for civilian injuries, which accounted for 38% of all injuries. Cooking is also the number 3 cause of civilian fatalities, which account for 17%. Next, we move to heating equipment. Heating equipment is the second leading cause of home fires, which accounted for 16%. It is the second leading cause for civilian injuries, which accounted for 12%, and the second leading cause of civilian fatalities, which accounted for 19%. Next, move to intentionally set fires. Intentionally set fires is the number 3 cause for home fires, but did not rank in the top 3 for injuries or fatalities. The electrical distribution is the number 4 cause for home fires, accounting for 6%. These fires did not account in the top 3 for injuries or fatalities. And finally, we'll move to smoking, which is the 5th leading cause of home fires, accounting for 5%, but it is the leading cause for civilian fatalities, accounting for 22%, as well as the 3rd leading cause for civilian injuries, accounting for 10%. And these are just the top 5 causes of home fires. conducted in this study. The room of origin, as you can see here, the kitchen is the leading room of origin that home fires originated from. It accounted for 42%. It is also the leading cause of civilian injuries, accounting for 38% of all injuries that occurred. And is the number 3 cause of civilian fatalities, accounting for 16%. This makes sense because of the leading cause of fire is cooking. Cooking happens in the kitchen. So, next, we'll move to the bedroom. Bedroom is the second leading cause of second leading origin, of house fires, accounting for 7%, which is a drastic downfall from 42%. It's also the second leading cause for civilian injuries, accounting for 20%, but it is the leading cause in room of origin that cause civilian fatalities, accounting for 25%. This also makes sense because smoking, which was the leading cause of fatalities, and heaters, which is the second leading cause of fatalities, both happen in the bedroom. You're going to sleep, and we'll talk about that a little later in the lesson. Next, we'll move to chimneys. Chimneys was the third cause of home fires, accounting for 6% total. But chimney fires do not account for any civilian injuries or death, or very minimal, according to the study. And this is because it's usually contained to the chimney itself. Next is the living room. In the living room is the number 4 origin of fire in home fires, accounting for 4%. It is the second leading room of origin for civilian fatalities, accounting for 24%, and as well, and third in injuries, accounting for 11%, which makes sense as well because of people usually come in, nap in the living room on the sofa or in their lazy chair. And we'll talk about that a little later as well. In the other section here, it includes the laundry room or utility area, the attic or concealed space, as well as the exterior wall or outside. And each, they all caused 9% of home fires for the room of origin. And it makes sense because there's not as much activity that happens there compared to the other rooms we just talked about, the kitchen, the living room, and the chimney. There's the bedroom. Why? Why do you believe that the leading cause of fire is cooking and the most common origin of fire is in the kitchen? I said before that cooking happens in the kitchen. But why do you believe that cooking is the number 1 reason for fire? At this point, I would open up the discussion and have students to speak back to me in, with their reasoning. I'll also give the answer in the later in this presentation. What do you believe the solution to this problem is? At this point, I'll also open up for the students to talk back to me. Basically, this is a rhetorical question. As a member of the fire service, no matter if you're a firefighter, fire investigator, or just a secretary in a fire department, it is everyone's job to ensure that homes are fire safe, and it's everyone's job to go out into the public and to ensure that everything is being done. A good quote I've always remembered is that fire suppression is a failed attempt at fire prevention. I strongly believe in that. And it's very important to tell the public why it's important. If not, people will just lose interest and ignore you. So, how do you do this? Go out in the community, make yourself known. And that's all you can do. Show and tell people, why it's important to check smoke detectors, why it's important to know about these things. If not, it'll happen to them. They'll know firsthand. That's something they don't want to know firsthand. What do you need? You will need the knowledge of what you'll gain in this lesson, as well as much more knowledge you'll gain just throughout being in the fire service. What do they need to know? There's materials you can hand out to homeowners and residents to give them more information, and also give them your phone number to the fire department or your fire department cell phone if you have one, and always be open to answer any questions they have. So we'll move into cooking fires now. As you know, it's the leading cause of fires. One of the reasons it is because people multitask. Mom can come home from work, get dinner started, go check on the kids, go check the mail, clean up the house a little bit. Dad comes home, he's tired, he wants something to drink. Mom goes to get him a drink, and the next thing you know, the smoke detector's going off, and there's a fire. It happens. It's preventable, but it happens. And the most important thing you can do is not to be distracted while cooking. Another thing is age. The second question here. Age impairs remembering. And there's something my mom and my grandma would kick me for saying this, but they forget things all the time. They're just very forgetful. And also, with age comes injury, and as well as just pain in general. Knee pain, back pain, hip pain. So basically, essentially, whenever they're cooking, they'll need to take a break. They'll just sit down, and when they sit down, they'll flip through the TV or talk on the phone and forget that they're cooking. And next thing you know, the smoke detector's going off. There's a fire. One thing that can be done to prevent this as well is that have a wooden spoon, especially for the older generation, to and write on it that I am cooking. And whenever they go to sit down, they'll have the wooden spoon in their hand, and after a few minutes of flipping through the TV, they'll look at the spoon and ask themselves, why am I holding this? And they'll read, I am cooking. And then they'll go back in the kitchen and check on their food, which is a good way to remember that they're cooking. It helps them to not be distracted. But if you're tired, don't cook. Fall asleep while cooking is another reason. Cooking is a number one reason for home fires. Excuse me. Next, we'll move to heater fires. Heater fires are more common during the winter, just because they're needed during the winter. You're less likely to see a heater fire in the summer. And if you do, it'd be my first. The main reason for heater fires is the improper use by the user. Heaters are only made to use to plug directly into the wall. If you use an extension cord, it doesn't. It's not made to. So the extension wire is not strong enough to pull the current needed for the heater to run properly, which then causes an overcurrent. And if you've ever been on scene of a heater fire or a fire because of a heater, you'll notice that where where it plugs into the extension cord directly from the heater is where the fire started. Another problem is that people will use a heater all day long, all night long, the next day and the next night, just continuously, and just leave it on, which they should not be running like that. And then they'll leave them on during the night whenever they go to sleep. Overuse of a heater, obviously it's heat, and it can cause a fire, which is very important to know because you shouldn't fall asleep with the heater on. Excuse me. If you're going to go to sleep with the heater on, ensure that you have a timer on the heater. If you buy a heater today, they should have a timer on it. Set the timer for an hour or so before you go to sleep, so it'll go off. And if you're not using the heater, unplug it from the wall and make sure that kids don't play with the buttons and accidentally turn it on and have it on the whole time. Children, I used to watch my nephews and niece, and they got everything even when I watched them. They're a handful, and you never know what they're going to get into. So make sure you unplug it and have outlet protectors inside so they can plug it up or stick their finger in it. Also stay in the same room as the heater. If you're going to leave the house, turn the heater off, unplug it. If you have to go to the bathroom, it's okay to leave the heater on. But if you leave the house or you're going to leave the room for an extended amount of time, turn off the heater and unplug it. So those for heaters. Arson fires. Arson fires is essentially intentionally set fires for the purpose of many reasons. It's very, very hard to prevent arson fires. Essentially because it's not an accident. It is purposely set. Insurance is one of the main causes for heater fires. People will begin to lose money if they move out of their house and just sit on the market. They have to pay on that house and they're just losing money. So essentially they will set the house on fire and collect the insurance money off of it. So also there's juvenile fire starters, which have a problem with starting fires as well. Juvenile fire starters is a whole other lesson that we'll have to go over, but essentially they have a problem in the household. Usually one of the parents isn't there, or they're not getting enough attention at home for a number of reasons, and they find that they cannot control the environment that they're in. After they discover they can play with fire, they can extinguish a small fire, a few leaves or something like that, and they find they can control that, unlike they control their environment at home. And eventually it keeps growing to become a bigger fire, and they'll extinguish it to feel that they have greater control over the world pretty much, and they'll gain confidence, and then eventually in that process they will just enjoy the idea of setting something on fire. There have been many studies conducted that have shown that pyromaniacs have started out as juvenile fire starters and has had problems in the household while growing up. But like I said, that's a completely different lesson. So we'll go ahead and move on to electrical fires. Electrical fires is the fourth leading cause of house fires, but it's still a cause of house fires nonetheless. Basically, the picture I showed you in the other slide, the overuse of plugs is a huge thing. Fortunately enough, we have fuse breakers now that if you override or use too much electricity, overcurrent will cause the fuse to break and or basically you have to go to the fuse box, flip the switch back, turn it back on. But sometimes, especially in older homes, they don't have that, and it'll cause too much current in the wire, and it'll just catch fire. So it's very important to use the right gauge wire, not to um, over plug too many things in to the wall or on that circuit. Then we'll leave the smoking related fires. There's smoking is going down a percentage in relation to people actually smoking, which is good for everyone's health, but it's also good for fire safety. Most people, when they come home from work, they're tired. They just want to have a smoke, have a beer maybe, and they'll be on their sofa or on the chair or in the bed, and they'll have a cigarette, and then they'll just fall asleep with the cigarette just falling down and catching the furniture on fire. And my grandma, I love her to death, but she fell asleep many times smoking a cigarette. And if you don't believe me, you should have seen her couches and her chairs. She'd fall asleep, and you see the burn holes right there. My mom would fortunately come by behind her, find it, put it out, and there's nothing happened. But there was many times that has occurred. Also, a huge thing is that when people have their ashes, they'll flip it right to the trash can, which does cause fire. Just because there's only a little bit of flame, it will become that big fire. It depends on the fuel load that it has, and if you give it a bigger fuel load, it'll become a bigger fire. So it'll happen. But something with this, if you're tired, don't smoke. Just don't do it. Also, if you are smoking, use an ashtray or a can. Just a regular steel can used for peas, green beans, corn, anything like that. Empty your ashes into that, and then put it in the trash can. That way, if there is still any embers within your ashes, you will not give it the potential of the fuel load that was in the trash can to heat up and catch on fire. So, it's true. Not all fires are preventable. Most are, but not all of them. Some of the reasons for this is nature. If you have an earthquake, ruptures the gas line, there's some sort of ignition from the earthquake, causes gas fire. Lightning struck your house and caused a fire. Back in my hometown, back in I believe 2007, lightning struck a church and the steeple caught on fire. Fortunately, the fire department got there in time to confine it to the steeple only, but it's a problem that occurs not often, but it does occur. As we said earlier, arson is a huge thing. It's not preventable because it's set on purpose, and children as well. You never know what children are doing. They'll run around even when you're watching. So, and children like to play with things like those matches, lighters. You need to teach. The only thing you do is teach them to not do it. If they see one, put it down. If you see a child isn't around, try not to play with it because monkey see, monkey do. If a little kid sees you doing something, they're going to want to do it too. So try not to play with yourself when they're around. So that's something else that can prevent children from playing with fire. Smoke detectors. Smoke detectors do save lives. If you don't know what a smoke detector sounds like, if you hear that, or if the homeowner hears that, get out and stay out. There's no reason to go back in to risk your life for anything in that house. Let the professionals do it. Um, Firefighters have special equipment, special what's called PPE or personal protective equipment that is not fireproof but fire resistant up to a certain temperature amount of time. But we're also on breathing air. The reason smoke is so harmful is because smoke is unburned toxins. Basically, if you inhale that, you're not inhaling oxygen anymore. It clogs your lungs up. You won't be able to breathe. So smoke detectors are important. Remember to get out and stay out. Now, where do they go? According to NFPA 101, Section 24341 states that smoke detectors or smoke alarms shall be in accordance with either 23411, 243142, or 24313. And essentially, 243411 states that smoke alarms shall be installed in accordance with section 96210 in all the following locations. In all sleeping areas, outside of each sleeping area, and on each level of the dwelling unit, including the basement. So essentially, if you have a two-story house with a basement with two bedrooms in the same area as in the same area of each other on the second floor, you'll need one smoke detector for the basement, one for the first floor, one for each room, the one outside of both those rooms. So that's 5 in total. If you have an attic, one of the attic, and that's 6. And feel free to have more than that. That's just the minimum that you'll need to be up to NFPA standard. Make sure you don't put them in the kitchen, although kitchen fires are more likely. Kitchen fires happen because people are not in the kitchen when they should be. The reason smoke detectors are here is because were invented is because that smoke detectors detect a fire when you cannot detect it yourself. Essentially when you're asleep or you're not in the room, that's why they're needing the basement and the attic as well, because you're not in there all the time. You won't know if the fire has happened or not. So if you're in the kitchen, you're cooking, you just stay in the kitchen. You'll know if a fire's happened. You can get out, tell everyone else to get out. And also, when you start cooking, the smoke detector is going to go off each time. So, Section 243412 states the dwelling unit should be protected by an approved smoke detection system in accordance with Section 96 and equipped with an approved means of occupant notification. And essentially, that means that Section 96 has a NFPA 101 states that you need a hardwired system that basically, if you have a hardwired system, of smoke detectors, if one goes off, they'll all go off to notify the entire occupancy of that there's an emergency and they need to get out. And then section 243413 states that in existing 1 and 2 family dwellings, approved smoke alarms powered by batteries shall be permitted. So essentially, if you don't have a hardwired system, you can use battery operated systems, and they'll only alert individually if it's activated. If you do have a hardwired system, make sure you have a battery backup, just in case the power goes out. Remember that fire doesn't care if your electricity is on or off; it will happen. You should test your smoke detectors every 6 months. And a good way to remember when to check them or when to test them, at the very least 6 months. If you feel more comfortable, check them once every month. But a good way to remember when to check your smoke detectors is when you change the clocks for daylight savings time. If if you have that, so. I had this set up and exited out on me. 1 second here.
You should check that your smoke detector is working correctly at least once a year. Pressing the flashing button under the detector until the alarm sounds.
Right,
if nothing happens.
That's how you check your smoke detector. Going back to the presentation here. Something else that goes along with making the home fire safe, if it isn't preventable, is exit drills in the home. A short mnemonic that goes great with this is EDIT. And essentially stands for exit drills in the home. And it's very important that you know 2 ways out when making place. Here's a layout of one-story, first-story home, ground level. You have 2 ways out of each room. You have a window in the bedroom right here. You can go out through the bedroom door. You have the option of going out the front door or the back door. In the kitchen, you have the option of this back door. Go out through here to the front door, or you have a window right here over the sink. In the dining room, you go out to the front door or the window over here. In the living room, you have multiple windows, or you can go out through this door. The question arises if most bathrooms or second floors, if you can't get out, there is a term that is called shelter in place. And essentially, to shelter in place, you will close the door, place laundry underneath the door, and call either, if you can do both, call 911 and let them know of your location and your situation. And also place, if you have a white piece of clothing or cloth at the window to let first responders know where you're at. So that's something you can do if you can't escape. Something else for if you live on the second floor, they have emergency rope ladders that you can use, that you can buy at almost any hardware store, and you can store them. Mainly, I would suggest in the bedroom, just because that's where you will be at more often. If you're in another room, I would suggest putting it in there, but more often it's going to be in your bedroom. And also for a meeting place. A meeting place can be anywhere you want it. There's a sign right here. This is probably the most ideal location of this scenario right here, just because it's furthest away from the household. Now, a meeting place can be at the sidewalk, at a larger tree somewhere, or even at a neighbor's house. As long as it's away from the structure. And also practice fire drills. We give scenarios. A scenario that you can play out for a family is it's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's a fire in the kitchen. What do? The first thing you would do is drop to the floor, and you'll crawl to the door. Feel the back of the door with the back of your hand. If it's not warm, slightly open the door and check for conditions. If you can get out of the house by crawling, get out. If you can stand up and walk out, just make sure there's no smoke above you. Smoke is hot. Smoke is dangerous. Excuse me. So ensure that if you can't get out, practice like we did before. Shelter in place. Close the door. Stuff laundry under it, and call 911. Tell them your location and your situation, and have a white piece of clothing or white cloth there in case. Excuse me. Also, it's vital to know that when you sleep with the door closed. And just like I said earlier, you can check for conditions and keep the smoke out if there's a fire inside the household, at least while you're sleeping. Some important numbers to know is police, fire, EMS, poison control, and 911. When you're going out to conduct these inspections, just have these numbers just to hand out on part of the material to hand out. Poison control does not pertain to this lesson, but it is a very important number to know just in case. And it's also good for the community to know the number and when to need it. Essentially, if a kid gets in something they shouldn't, they can call poison control. The poison control will tell them what to do, how they should respond to the situation. And also 911, have materials that can teach a kid on what to do when they call 911. When they call to dial 911, to give them the name, their address, and the situation. Excuse me. When you go out, advertise. Send flyers out, put it in the newspaper, social media, website. Excuse me. Tell them what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. For example, the Whitehall Fire Department will be conducting free fire inspections of residents in the Whitehall District the first week of October in 2015. If you would like to be a part or have a firefighter inspect your home for fire safety to make sure it's fire safe, then please let us in. And when you go up to the door, be courteous, be professional, be respectful. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Introduce yourself. Hello, I'm Sergeant Greenwell with the Whitehall Volunteer Fire Department. We are conducting free fire inspections for homes. Would you like your home to be inspected? Excuse me. And also bring the materials you'll need, bring everything you'll need. Fire safety materials can be found at FEMA or USFA. You can go to their online website and find that information, and they'll send it directly to your fire department for you to hand out. Something else you can bring is batteries and smoke detectors. Apply for a smoke detector grant if you can, or battery grant. And when you go out to conduct these free fire inspections, you can pass out, when you check the smoke detectors, if it needs a battery, you can put a battery in, or if you find that they don't have a smoke detector where it should be, or they don't have one at all, instead of telling them that you need to go get in a smoke detector, and put it in these locations, you can tell them that I noticed you have 0 smoke detectors in your household. We have some that we can install for you right now if you would like us to, and show them how to test it, when to test it, and also it's a very important thing to do is to write the date on the battery, just so you know when you put the battery in. And something else you can do is smile. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Don't go out there with a bad attitude. And what you want to do is go out there and have fun and make sure that homes are fire safe. This concludes our lesson for today. Remember that most fires occur with cooking and in the kitchen. Smoking is the leading cause of death in home fires. Almost all fires are preventable. Smoke detectors save lives, And remember Edith, exit drills in the home. Remember 2 ways out and a meeting place. Thank you for staying for this lesson.